host, Cain Stevens. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cain Stevens Super Show. I'm once again your super host, the host with the most, Cain Stevens, and I have another amazing guest, super guest. We're just killing it with guests lately, and this particular person is going to be no different. We have none other than the legendary Gregg Lee from Paisty Jenny, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and give him a round of applause here. Add clap noise later and all that. Welcome to the show, Gregg.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's cool.
Of course, man. So, you're in Paisty Jenny. You're also in Wreck Jenny,
Yep.
which I find to be really cool. I want to ask you a little bit more about that, but you're the front man. You also play guitar, correct?
Yep, sure do.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for a long time though. You haven't been just you're not new to the music market locally, especially here in Lincoln. You've been doing this for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been at it for a long time, a lot of years. Started back in my, high school days. I was going to say college, but in Lincoln, my college days, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
And, did several bands back then, played the Grove all the time when that was like a huge deal. And that's where I cut my teeth, I guess you'd say.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
So you played the Grove was always a cool venue. I mean, I saw like the first bands that I back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like my first bands and my first experiences were at the Grove. And me being a young musician, I started playing guitar at 16 and singing and stuff, playing out of our dad's stereos and all that. The Grove was a major part for us. We would watch guys like yourself playing there, and then we'd go run back home and see if we could mimic it. And, most of the time we just blew it, but we gave it our best, right?
That's funny. That's great. No, I remember first time I ever played there, I was a high school kid still from York, Nebraska.
Yeah.
I was 17 or 18 years old, something like that. My first, I guess, real band that ever did anything is called Justin Morgan back in the day. And we played in a battle of the bands. And I think we got second place there at that time. We got beat by, I'm terrible with names, so I can't remember the name of the band, but these guys came out, and it was kind of a gag thing. They came out wearing giant adult diapers.
Oh, no. So they had it won right off the bat, right? I mean,
they got us right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny. But that's back in the day. Boy, the Grove it's obviously been through a lot of changes over the years, but the ceilings were leaking all the time. They had buckets all over the floor and tarps trying to catch the water.
Absolutely. Man, I thought you were going to tell me like it was the early iteration of Slipknot or something, like here they come out in baby costumes.
No.
So you guys have opened up for a lot of bands. You guys have played a lot of big shows. You guys have been at it. I have a brush with Paisty Jenny myself. Before you guys started, I was starting a band, and I talked to a guy named Stan Liberty, which really well, I'm sure, because he plays guitar.
Sure.
And
Sure.
Him and I were going to start a band, and we were going to call ourselves Liquid Courage or something like that, I think. And I was just getting ready to start, and then Stan stopped calling, and I was wondering like what's going on. And well, he found a pretty darn good band in you guys, and he ended up. You got no. It's you know how it works out in band. You've been in bands for years. I was the wrong guy for the job at the time. Like I'm a more seasoned musician now, but back then, man, I just cringed. Like I can only imagine a world-class guitar player like Stan looking at an idiot like me playing my keyboard in my parents' basement and probably running for the hills,
Oh, geez. Well, we all start somewhere. That's really
I think he dodged the bullet. Well, not joining that band, but you guys have done really well. You guys, I used to be tied into. You guys played the Nowhere Bar, didn't you? Did you ever play the Nowhere Bar?
I don't know if we did with.
Maybe it wasn't. You guys are more at the Grove at that time when the Nowhere Bar was going still.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe that was I'm trying to think. That was probably like Chris Dittmer's band and those guys, wasn't it?
Might have been. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
They played there a bunch.
I used to kind of help them. I was the karaoke DJ there, and
Oh,
my
okay.
band played there a lot. And then I was kind of loosely help them with their entertainment and all that stuff. So I was trying to recall like if I had met you guys there or not.
Gotcha.
Um, so it says in your bio, as I was looking at it on, so you've done voting for the Grammys, is that correct?
Yeah, I was a voting member for the Grammys for the Academy for well, this it's really interesting. It popped up in my Facebook memories. Crazy how that keeps you on track.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
same
did that.
here.
But it's been 10 years now
Yeah.
that I've been part of that. Although to be honest with you, this year I resigned. I said I'm
Oh,
done with it because I just after this year's Grammys, I just couldn't be part of it anymore. I just wasn't
yeah.
very happy with the things that went on.
Well, how, I
So,
mean, so how did, how, if you don't mind me asking, how does one become that? How did you get into voting for the Grammys?
oh, sure, sure. Well, there's a certain criteria you have to meet. You have to obviously apply to be that or do that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember right off what it is, the number, but there's a certain number of commercial musical releases you have to have put out in your career.
Hmm.
And there's a threshold. I think it was 7 maybe at the
Yeah.
time or something like that. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, that's kind of that's part of it. And then there's certain things you got to answer certain questions and just meet their criteria. And so I was accepted, and it was a really cool experience to be part of that
It would be, yeah.
for a long time, a lot of years, and really neat. I guess a big honor for me. And um, but it, like I said, it kind of started going the wrong direction. Some stuff that I just didn't agree with. So personally, I pulled the plug on my participation. So yeah.
I still think it's very cool that you did it, man. And so I mean, how does it what is, if you don't mind me asking still, like what's the criteria? I mean, do they just send you a ballot of like the participants and then you just kind of do that as a voting member and then that's how it goes?
Yeah. So there's a couple rounds of voting. So there's like the preliminaries, and there's a whole slew of people are available for that. And then, after the second round, then you get the final round voting. And of course, there's all kinds of different categories. And you only really vote, and quite honestly, you probably only should vote in the categories that you're familiar with, being me
Yeah.
being rock and et cetera. Because I don't know the first thing about hip hop. I would, straight up about that. That's not my genre. And so, me voting there doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I would vote on the stuff that I was familiar with. And so, that's kind of the way it works. And then, like I said, basically there's 2 rounds of voting. And once that's over, you're basically out of the loop. But it's kind of interesting how every year I would get my uh, Billboard magazine,
Hmm.
um, and was it Rolling Stones? No, Billboard. It's always Billboard, and the Grammy issue is always full page ads for people that were running or in the ring for whatever category.
Right.
But the whole issue of it is just nothing but full page ads every year.
Yeah.
I get that for free just because I was one of the voters. But it's just kind of funny. It's pure marketing. It's total marketing.
It is. They're like politicians, they're trying to brainwash you with this or that through their magazine. But that is, I mean, hey, you did it. That's something that a lot of us can't say. We can't check that off of our list that we voted for the Grammys. So were you kind of disgusted sometimes when you saw, because like to me it seems like the Grammys have kind of gone downhill in the last so many years in terms of who they're letting into the categories, especially in
Mhm.
us as rock people. We wonder why this act or that act was even considered, and let alone winning the whole thing. Did you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That was part of it, part of my decision because it just didn't feel right anymore. It's just like they're going such different directions than what I thought would be the way to do it. And then again, this year's ceremony was just so off the charts. And I get it. I probably sound old because, my parents were freaking out when I was listening to Kiss when I was a kid and
Right.
stuff like that. That was crazy stuff back then. But, I don't know, maybe when you do get a little older, you start having some different perspective on life, and you see things in a different way. It just couldn't be part of it from what I saw this year. So.
Well, I mean, I applaud you for that, man. I mean, you gotta stand up for your beliefs. I mean, you could just do what some of the other people are probably doing, just stick with it and vote, but not vote with your heart, And I mean, you
Sure.
take a stance on it and you left it. So,
Yeah.
I applaud you for that. And it's like I said, it's still very cool that you can check that off your list.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Speaking of checking things off your list, I mean, it looks to me, and I am familiar with you guys' music, especially on Spotify and Amazon Music. I listen
Mhm.
to Amazon Music because that's I just like the platform better. But
Yeah.
you guys have what? You guys have 3 albums, right? You have Spilling Mercury as one of them. You have Detours Red, and you have 18 Days in Weed, right?
Yeah, and actually, there's one that came out originally. It was called Detours, and then was Detours Red. That's why it's
Oh,
named
okay.
Red.
Yeah,
And it had the Red had a handful of other songs on it. It was duplicate of the first effort, but it had a few extra songs, and also had a video on the disc
yeah,
uh, at the time. So technically, I guess four albums or 4 CDs over the years,
yep,
and had some songs do some cool stuff for us on radio. So that was good.
absolutely.
Um, had the opportunity to work with some really cool people, some great producers, and just it's been a cool experience, that's for sure. You learn a lot in the industry, and the industry's certainly changed tremendously since back in the day when we started. So it's a whole different ball game
Right.
anymore. And one thing that I learned early, I came from the Gene Simmons school of rock and roll,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you're not going to talk about yourself, if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to do the work, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And if they're talking good, they're talking bad, doesn't matter. At least they're talking about you.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what I grew up on, and that's what I guess I've always done. I've the last few years I've taken a hiatus. The band took a break too. Got to a point where touring was just too intense, and there were some things that went on that just it was time to move on for a while. And now we're back at it, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, I that's where I came from. Back in the day, back in those Grove days when we were in Justin Morgan, like I mentioned. If you recall Tight Fit back in the day at the
Yep.
Grove. Well, we had the same booking agent out of Denver. It was Mile High Talent, Kenny Turner out of Mile High Talent. And it was really cool because if you were going to be one of his bands, you had to spend a week with him in Denver on his sound stage. And we went to rock school.
Yeah.
He taught us how to do it. There's certain things you do, and there's certain things you don't do.
Right.
And we worked up back, then it was like all about the choreography and building your show properly and stuff like that. So yeah, we spent a whole week on a soundstage just
Man,
learning the ins and outs of it.
that had to have been intense. It reminds me of I don't know if you've ever seen like the Tenacious D movie, Pick a Destiny, but
Yeah.
I can only imagine it's probably like that, like ropes swinging and bottles hitting you guys in the face,
Well,
and a guy screaming at
yeah, maybe not quite that intense,
not
but it
that
was
intense.
fun.
We can only hope, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, man, that's pretty. In today's music is different. Like, I mean, I'm a musician. I'm a recording artist as well, but I produce myself. I've always been the type of musician that if I don't have a band surrounding me, I do everything. I drum, I sing, I play
I'm
bass,
sure.
I do all that. And if I can't find people to fill in, I don't wait for people because you know how musicians are. We are a different breed. Some of us, out there, I'm not saying all of us, but some of us are wishy-washy. Some people, they don't want to practice and do all. I never waited for any of that. And so I
Right.
do my own production, but you guys are on a much higher because you have real producers. I watch the videos of like when you guys are in studio. I've never been in like a formal studio for any of that stuff. So I mean, You guys are definitely killing it in that, but today's music, it just seems so oversaturated because anybody can make an album in their bedroom, like all you need is a rudimentary amount of equipment and you can do it. It doesn't necessarily sound good, but you can make it. And I think that's good to not quell people's art if they want to release the art, but it really does water down the music industry too. What do you think about that in general? I mean, what do you think of the basement
Well, I think
producers?
that's great. I've always had my own studio as well, and Johnny Ray, our guitar player before Stan came on,
Mhm.
that was during the Detours days, and actually Spilling Mercury as well.
Yeah.
Um, we recorded a bunch of that stuff in his basement, and I did all the majority of the mix downs, and I did some lead guitar parts on a couple songs and on Spilling Mercury and some of that stuff too in my basement. So those were in home,
Yeah.
works that we put together, and they turned out good. I mean, I'd call them pretty well polished demos, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's interesting that we'll bring that one up. Spilling Mercury, that was a 15 or 16 song record. And what's interesting about that one, in some ways, I look at that one and think that is one of the better, even though it's home studio and maybe not polished per
Right.
se. Probably some of the songwriting, some really cool songwriting on there. And what's different about it is that really could have been two different records because it's kind of a split between genres. There's the hard rock. I mean, at that time, mentally, we were kind of 3 Days Grace sort of mind frame. But
Mhm.
the other side of the record is almost crossover into, I don't want to call it country, but it sort of has some flavors of that
Yeah,
on
for
some
sure.
of it. So literally it could have been two different releases.
Yeah.
Um, but that was good. That was a bunch of songs.
Hey, you did it. I mean, it doesn't sound to me unpolished, but now when you say unpolished demo quality, I say it sounds good. It sounds gritty. It sounds some of the best albums do sound that way. I mean, think of how think of some of the earliest recordings of some of the bands that we love. I'm sure that they were pretty rough before
Sure.
they got like major producers. And so, what does it change when you do get a producer? I mean, do you have to do a lot of give and take? Do they listen to what you're saying? What's the process like with like a more of a producer type?
Sure. Well, every producer's different.
Hmm.
But so the job of a producer is to take your rough product. Here's the clay. We put together this, and this is the direction we want to go. And then
Right.
they take that clay and they smooth it out and they turn it into a nice work of art. And I mean, certain things like um, you want the important thing obviously is the hook, and you want the choruses to hit just bam, right?
Right.
Um, but how do you do that? Well, one of the ways you do that is you make your verse come down, and then boom, you have to a certain way. Then boom, it just pops.
Yeah.
It's all about contrast.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll take things and oh no, we need a bridge right here. This is getting too repetitive. We got to switch it up right here. I'm not a progressive rock guy, so I've never written that way. I'm always of the mind frame or mindset of don't bore us, get to the chorus,
Yeah, for sure.
that kind
Yeah.
of
No,
thing.
that's
So
a perfect way to do it.
yeah, and I try to write radio songs, in that roughly 3 minute pocket, somewhere in there, 3 minutes, 20 seconds, something like that. So I'm conscious of that, and I think producer will take that in mind, and it depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to write for that purpose, if it's about radio, or like when we did 18 days in weed, I almost said
Mhm.
of in weed.
In
um,
or of.
yeah, that's an interesting story too. Um, the the purpose of that, quite honestly, is we were attempting to write music that would be viable for sync licensing in movies.
Mhm.
That was kind of our direction with that. And so we did things a little bit different. We weren't afraid to be maybe a little bit longer in a song,
Right.
and steer some different directions. But it's the job of a producer is to take your rough idea, your product, and just polish it up and make it viable and I guess maybe sellable. Maybe that's not the right word for it, because just depends on what your goal is.
Yeah.
But we've worked with Michael Beck on several projects. He's always done a really good job for us. Just he's a great producer. And then we decided to step another direction and go with we're lucky enough to meet Sylvia Massey and get in touch with Sylvia Massey if you're familiar with her.
Yeah.
She's produced all kinds of greats. And Michael co-produced on that, so they got together and co-produced. We went out to her studio out in Weed, California, which is where the name of the record comes from, 18 Days in Weed.
Yeah. Or it would have been 18 Days on Weed if it was a different type of...
well, yeah. So there was some interesting songwriting that went on there.
Yeah.
But it was different working with a female producer. She took my voice in directions that I probably wouldn't have gone on my own.
Yeah.
And she has all kinds of techniques. She purposely does things to mess with you. Sometimes she'll do stuff just to make you mad. So to piss you off, to get a certain growl out of you or a certain this or that. But she did. She really took my voice, I think, in a different direction than I would have gone on just on my own. So that's pretty cool. And then our latest here, the couple of songs we just did, we're getting ready to release. Very excited about them. We worked with Clinton Coonahan. He's the singer for Another Lost Year.
Okay.
Yeah. And Gabe, our bass player, has recently started touring with his band also with Another Lost Year. And so, and we did a bunch of shows. We toured with them with Paisty back in the day and did a whole bunch of shows. So we were good friends anyway. But anyway, that was kind of the connection there. And he produced these next two songs that we're releasing. And style wise, it's rock, but I guess you've heard one of them.
Yeah, I got the privilege to, we can talk about that now. I'd love for you to plug what's going on here, because I'll have this out, in the upcoming week here very soon. So it's not like it'll be right within the ballpark of when you're releasing. But yeah, I had the pleasure of listening to your new single, which is Hands Up, right? I believe that's what it's going to be called. And man, I loved it. It sounded great. I love the songwriting. It sounded polished. Everything sounded so good. Like, I could hear it on any radio station. It was perfect, man. So, I can't really divulge too much more of that, but I'll leave that up to you. Tell us a little bit more about that. How did that come up? What was your mindset like in the songwriting process and that sort of thing?
Sure. Well, that one's a banger, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty happy with it. I hope it goes somewhere. Hope people like it.
Yeah.
Interesting though, that song was written, oh man, many years ago, and the Paisty Boys, I brought it to the table, and we went through several different versions of it, I guess. And we're never happy with it and necessarily, so it just got tabled.
Yeah.
And this time around, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to mess with that again and see what happens. And I took it a whole different direction than where it started. And so, if you ever heard the demo, it's so funny. I heard the original demos from a couple years back, right? And it's just hilarious. It's like, oh my gosh, this is where this song came from.
That's usually how it goes, isn't it? When you listen to so early iterations of some of these songs, you listen back and go, what, sometimes it's like, what was I thinking? And other times it's fun to listen to, but it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't release it then, because
I'm glad I didn't put that out.
Yeah.
Right.
I did that my first two albums that I've released. So what do you do, right?
Yeah. Well, like we said, you got to start somewhere,
that's right.
Some more material, but
yeah.
So it was a cool process. It was quick though. We busted out. There are actually two singles that we're getting ready to release. There's Hands Up and the next one on deck is called One Love.
Mm-hmm.
And we busted out both those songs. Went up to Clinton's studio and basically pretty much in 2 days had them knocked out, just in the studio, all of us just knocking them out. And he took us in some different directions too. But what I liked about him, he really comes from a modern rock world. That's his genre, and that's really where I wanted to go. I have nothing against where I came from, but I want to grow.
Right. Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know, and I've always tried to push more in a modern rock direction versus, classic or 80s style. And sometimes you work with what's available too. And there's a lot of different guitar players around the area that have, over the years, that was, more in that 80s vein, and that's fine. And so I had to really push to try to keep going in the direction I always wanted to.
Right.
And this time it was pretty cool because I think he really latched on to what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think we came out with exactly that.
I think it definitely comes out when people hear it. You can definitely hear the modern rock, and you guys came up in the 80s, right? And you guys came up and up through all that, the hair stuff and all that. And I mean, it's just, but you guys are a pretty crunchy band, man. I mean, you guys get pretty heavy at times. I mean, I really dig the sound, man. I personally love distorted guitars. And I mean,
Mhm.
I came up around grunge, obviously, with my age. So I mean, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, all them blew me out of the water.
Oh
So that's
yeah,
how I
sure.
wanted to play from the second I saw them on. With the second I saw, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, it was over for me as a kid. I was like, okay, I need a guitar now.
You
I need
bet.
heavy distortion, and I just want to play trash on the guitar as possible. So, man, I mean, what was it like for you guys? As '80s guys. I mean, did you hate the '90s? Did you hate grunge? Because I mean, grunge did kind of kill, aside from like all the ballad bands and stuff. Grunge kind of killed '80s rock as we love it. And there's so many amazing bands in the '80s. What did you think about it as it
Sure.
was happening?
Well, I was in the early 90s, about 91.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 91? Yeah, I'd say so. I was about to move to LA and go try to hit that scene, but it
Yeah.
was already starting to go away. There are other reasons why I didn't do it, but I was set. I had bought a panel van. I was got all my gear. I was going to go head out and just start trying to make it happen.
They're up to town,
I
yeah.
yeah, I went up and down the coast, stayed with different friends, tried to make some decisions on where I wanted to stay and end up living and such. And that's kind of an interesting story too. Everything always reminds. I guess I'm going to have plenty to talk about here. I was like, I don't know if I
Oh
can
yeah,
fit
it comes out better than you think, Greg.
it. But with that story there, I had spent a week in Seattle, and then I spent a week in San Francisco, and I spent a week in LA checking out all three and trying to decide where I wanted to go.
Mhm.
And the week that I was in Seattle, though, it's the only formal vocal lessons I've ever had. I spent a week with a gentleman who's, bless his soul, he's no longer with us, but his name was Maestro David P. Kyle. Old, heavyset gentleman, opera-based style type of singer and teacher.
Yeah.
He taught Jeff Tate from Queensryche. He was one of his students. He taught Ann Wilson from Heart. He taught Jeff Pilsen from Dawkins, who now is
Wow.
with Foreigner.
Yeah.
Um, and Gregg Lee. I spent 5 1-hour sessions with this guy, and looking over his baby grand piano out this giant picture window over Puget Sound.
Yeah.
And what an experience, and changed my singing career forever.
Right. What a
Biggest blessing
scene.
of my life. And so anyway, that whole thing just reminded me of that. But that whole era, though, like I said, grunge happened and all that, and it really did just cut that genre off at the knees. At that time, I had just finished being in a band called Cowboy X,
Mhm.
some guys out of Omaha. So I had finished being in Airstrike, and then I started writing more songs and ended up meeting some of these guys out of Omaha, and we put our heads together and we put out an EP of 6 songs. And crazy thing is that Cowboy X record sold so well. Like, I mean, we just put it in local record stores in Lincoln and Omaha, Homers and such.
Homers, all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And we sold like 3,000 copies of it in the first 6 months, and we'd never even played anywhere.
Yeah,
We never even did a show. And
that's
then
awesome.
we did our first show at Sokol Auditorium, and I don't know how many tickets we sold, a ton of tickets. And it was just crazy. And we did like 3 shows and then we broke up.
The story of most rock bands, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But that was pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of about the time after that had happened. I was getting ready to make the move out there and checking out where to go and stuff. And then it's just for some various reasons, I was a young dad at the time, raising a couple young kids, and that's where my heart was. I decided I needed to stay home and do that. So
As a guy should, that's what's really important, isn't it? When it's all done. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad grunge didn't, kill people's spirit, because music kind of came back. It's funny how rock has kind of morphed into all of these things, especially then as it got aggressive into like grunge, and then into the 90s with like new metal and all that, Limp Bizkit and all these Slipknot, all these bands. Man, I mean, rock got so aggressive there for a while. I mean,
sure did.
It did. And I was weirdly a part of all of that, like I was young as grunge was coming up, and then I was in high school at that age when all of that metal was out, and it was just like, what were we so angry about? I have no idea. Because like now I listen to all sorts of, I listen to Merle Haggard, I listen to all this stuff now, and I just think to myself, like, why was I so close-minded on music? Like I can remember telling a guy like Led Zeppelin sucks just to tick him off, and like now that's like sacrilegious to me. I'm literally wearing a Led Zeppelin hat. I mean, like I live for, and I just can't believe that. I can't believe I was so stupid.
Well, we all have our time.
We do, yeah.
Put the stupid hat on, right?
Yeah.
Well, we all do it.
I think I did it just to get a rise out of this guy's dad. His dad was real cool, and I was always the type of kid that like all the parents loved me for whatever reason because I was full of it. And but I would just, to get under his skin, I would just tell him about how all these bands were better than, Limp Bizkit's better than, Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin sucks. What have they done all these years? Oh, they only revolutionized music in general. Well, I mean, what was I going to say next? The Beatles suck too, like.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah, come on. But hey there, fellow follicle enthusiasts. We have a sponsor that's about to make your beards go wild with delight. Brace yourselves for the one and only, the elegant Sasquatch. Are you ready to unleash your outer beast?
Cain, I've been waiting for this moment my entire bearded life. But tell me, how can the elegant Sasquatch help us awaken our inner beasts?
Oh, my hairy companion, the elegant Sasquatch has a treasure trove of beard products that will have your whiskers partying like it's the wildest night in the forest. From their aromatic beard oils to their beastly balms and buttery concoctions, they've got everything you need to make your beard sing with joy.
I can almost hear my beard belting out its own rendition of I Will Survive.
Your beard is in for a treat, my friend, and here's the best part. Every single product is handmade with love. Picture this, a team of Sasquatch artisans rocking their aprons and wielding their grooming tools, crafting beard goodies that will blow your mind. It's like a hairy fiesta of craftsmanship.
I can see those Sasquatch artists dancing with their combs and trimmers like they're on a hairy stage.
Absolutely. These bearded maestros pour their heart and soul into every bottle of beard oil, every tin of balm, and every tub of butter. They're like the Michelin-starred chefs of the beard world, creating culinary delights for your facial hair.
My beard is salivating in anticipation.
Well, get ready for your beard to do a happy dance, because the elegant Sasquatch has you covered from all angles. Their beard oils will make your whiskers as smooth as a buttery glide. Their balms will sculpt your beard into a masterpiece that would make Da Vinci jealous. Their butters will leave your beard softer than a cloud made of marshmallows, and their washes will cleanse your beard with a scent that's fresher than the waterfalls in the Rockies.
My beard is ready for the bearded revolution.
You can find the Elegant Sasquatch on Instagram and Facebook. They're ready to share their hairy wisdom, showcase their bearded customers, and entertain you with memes that will make your mustache curl with laughter.
I can't wait to join the hairy community and bask in the glory of their bearded memes.
So, folks, get ready to let your beards run wild, unleash your outer beast, and head over to Facebook and Instagram to find the Elegant Sasquatch. Trust me, your beard will thank you, and you'll be the envy of every bearded creature in the virtual forest.
Here's to smelling like a wild creature and embracing your inner Sasquatch.
Cheers to that, my fellow bearded brethren, and stay elegant with the Elegant Sasquatch. So as a fellow lead man, Greg, I have to say, and for whatever reason, trust me, I've always been the type of guy, I just wanted to hide behind the guitar, be the guy in the back, maybe playing the bass or something, holding a beer in one hand and a bass in the other. But for whatever reason, in the bands that I was always in, I always got picked to sing. And I'll be darned if I wasn't singing, if I didn't want to still hide behind the guitar. So I played guitar as well. So for you, tell me what your experience is like as a lead man. What is being a lead man to you, and how has it been for you throughout your career?
Well, I'm the master of craziness, of lunacy. It's just that got to have a good time. You got to make sure everybody else is having a lot of fun too.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Back in the day when I was first starting out, I had no real desire to be a singer or be the front guy. It was out of necessity because nobody else was willing to do it. So I just started singing.
That's how it always goes, right? No one else is willing. Somebody has to go, okay, I guess I will, right?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens there.
Exactly.
And here we are. But yeah, I just, it's a fun place to be. I just love directing the lunacy, it's, there's something really special when you have yourself a crowd, and whether it's a big crowd or a small crowd, it doesn't matter as far as this goes. I mean, when you literally, you feel like you have them in the palm of your hand, kind of, and you're directing the fun, and God, it feels good when the reactions come back to you. There's no feeling like that in the world. It's really that 30, 40, 50 minutes, hour, 90 minutes, whatever it is that you're on stage, really is a rush. That's where I thrive. That's where I'm at my best. I just love it.
Yeah, there's something to be said about it. I mean, I'm a high anxiety guy in my regular life, but like when it came to like meeting the crowd head on, I never had any problem with it. It was, maybe it's not like this for you. For me, it was like I kind of would transcend into like another dimension, another person.
Oh, yeah.
Like I could lock eyes with people. All of a sudden, I had all the confidence in the world, and I'm in, and maybe a lot of people are like that. I mean, I don't know what it is. I can't describe it other than if you're a young artist out there and you're thinking about doing it. Like I can tell you, above everything, and trust me, I've done a lot of terrible things in my life. The biggest rush that I've had is being up there in front of everybody and doing it, and then when you start getting good at it and really knocking the songs down and everything, I mean, there's just nothing like it. They're really,
Yep,
it's like
there's no doubt.
comedians say that too, like getting that laugh from people. For us and musicians, it's just I didn't care if I played to one person, I didn't care if I played to 1,000, whatever. It was just being able to connect with those people, and you have their utmost attention at that time. It's like an indescribable thing. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's the greatest feeling in the world. It really is. It's something, and I don't know, because let's face it, most musicians aren't making a big bankroll out of it. So you do it for the love of it, and you do it for that feeling. You really do. And when people respond to your art,
right,
and I've played in plenty of cover bands in my lifetime, and again, Wreck Jenny is a cover band, which is a play on Paisty Jenny. That's where that name came from.
Right.
But of course, Paisty, we just do original stuff now. But that's fun doing covers, and I got nothing against that. It pays the bills, or people make good money doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to me, there's just a different, when Paisty Jenny hits the stage, it's a whole different feeling. It's because the pride is there, just the feeling of boom, this is me, this is what I'm trying to say, this is my art. And it's hard to explain, but there's a whole different energy that comes out of Paisty Jenny than playing in cover bands. Cover bands are fun.
They are.
And I've always enjoyed it. And it's fun. It's great when people respond to cover music because, they know it. When you're doing originals, it's a real challenge. And if you hit one out of the park, you know it.
Yeah.
Well,
and let's be honest, if you're doing originals, you're not hearing some jackass yell Freebird as much, right? As
True.
we do when we play, because I played in a lot of cover bands. I mean, I made plenty of money in cover. The money's there, but it's like, sometimes your pride gets in the way a little bit. Maybe you played Honky Tonk Woman too fast. And for instance, I played in a band where we played country rock and all that. And I can remember one time as I was singing, this farmer looking dude walks up to me and he hands me a sheet of paper as I'm playing my guitar and singing the song. And I kind of like play it and I wait until the song's over and I turn the paper over and he says, "You're playing it too fast." And I'm like, oh no. like what? Like, for one, who has the gumption to bother the singer while they're playing it? But then
oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's
it is kind of funny because with technology now, I mean, I wear in-ears all the time now, and instead of using the wedge, I have my in-ears, and so I can't hear anything anybody's trying to tell me. It was hard enough when you got a wedge, but it's always like, hey, it's like, they want to talk to you in the middle of the song, and he's like, are you kidding me? I'm busy.
I can remember women coming up, and they would be like, they would be in your ear, in my ear, screaming, telling me the next song they wanted to hear. Or this, and it was like, you realize I got an instrument in my hand, you realize I'm singing, right? And I'm having a hard enough time fumbling through all of the lyrics anyway, because I don't know how you are. Like, my memorization sucks.
It used to be good, but now I'm terrible.
You would do that? I would hide cues on the floor. I would do, like, what I would do is I would write out it was almost like a code, because I was afraid for people to know that I was cheating. And so I would do like 3-word responses that wouldn't make sense to anybody, but they would to me. And I'd have like my own notebook of code so that it would something to cue myself. But I also drank a boatload too. So it was like, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. It was a bad thing. But
certainly I've made up a lot of lyrics along the way. There's no doubt that.
I was just getting ready to ask you that. I mean, when in doubt, you got to keep moving somehow. The show's got to come, you might lose a lyric here and there. Sometimes you make up words and they don't necessarily notice. But there's always that one guy that comes up with you and he's like, man, you really butchered Sweet Home Alabama. it's like, sorry, man, sorry I missed those 2 lines that so well or whatever. But
I have a way of in between songs when I'm talking to the crowd, I have a way of just putting my foot in my mouth. Sometimes I'll say something and I'm like, what did I just say now? How do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I gotta figure out a way to make this make sense somehow.
That's me with all human contact, Greg. I usually insert my foot in my mouth after everything that I said, and then it's like
just a conversation in general. Huh?
Yeah. And then how do I get out of this? I've always been a lightning rod for like the weirdest of the weird. So I'll be at Walmart and I'll have the weirdest people come up to me. And no offense, I'm a weird guy, so I accept it. But it's like they want to talk to me and they want to tell me their life story and they want to do all this. Hence why I do a podcast, because it's like, why not? Why not talk to everybody? I'm not saying you're weird, Greg. You might be, you might not be, but I'm saying like everybody, I've always had a thing where people just want to talk to me about their life. So it's like, why not do something with it?
That's cool. Yeah, for sure.
So we're kind of at the portion now of the show where I like to ask people questions. They're going to be ridiculous questions. They're nothing too raunchy, nothing too crazy. Just it could be anything. I hope that you're game for it. I'll just ask you some silly questions, and this is a way for people to kind of get your personality if they don't know you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
So the first one I'm going to ask you is just kind of going off of Well, I'll keep it simple for now because you're a musician, and I really want to know. I'm dying to know what your guitar of choice is. That's not too crazy. What is your what
My
brands do you
guitar
like?
choice. Well, I love playing Les Pauls.
Yeah.
Um, I don't take any Les Pauls out of the house anymore though, because I had one stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And one time we had back in the day, we had like 7 guitars stolen out of our trailer.
Oh no.
And yeah, so I don't do that. So generally speaking, I play cheap Les Paul Epiphones, and I beat
Yeah.
the crap out of them. I'm a rhythm guitar player,
Yeah.
frontman.
Yeah.
I'm not a lead guitar player, so I'm not worried about having the best instrumentation in the world. I've just never been a gear guy. It's never been my thing. I don't care. I've some nice acoustic guitars. But I just beat the crap out of my guitars. So,
Absolutely.
I
There's
don't want
nothing
to beat
wrong.
every
Hey,
Les
there's nothing
Paul.
wrong with a Les Paul, and there's not absolutely nothing wrong with an Epiphone either. I mean, Epiphone is a very good, well-tested brand. I hate all the guitar snobs out there that are just like
Yeah.
it's just like I mean, you watch YouTubes of these little kids slaying it on some cheap guitar, and
Oh,
then
sure.
sit there and tell us that oh, you have to buy a $4,000 guitar plus.
Right.
Like, come
Well,
on, like.
I just got myself a nice ESP
Mhm.
for my birthday, and my wife had to talk me into it. She's like, "Buy yourself a nice guitar, dude."
Yeah.
So I caved. I was like, "All right." She's like, "You deserve to have a nice guitar again. So get yourself one." So I got a pretty nice ESP now, but
I wish your wife
I'm
would be
not
friends with
picky.
I wish your wife would be friends with my wife and tell her to tell me that. Like that's what I'm
Right.
waiting for. I play Fender Strats. I just always like Strats for what I do, especially through the pedals I play through.
Mhm.
So I don't have anything against. I always found Les Pauls to be super heavy, to
Yeah,
play
they are.
live, especially in a cover band where you'd play like 50 songs in a night. Man, dude,
Sure.
you'd be hanging down like the bassist from Korn by the end of the night.
Yeah, they
So
are heavy. And that is one of the benefits of playing those Epiphones. They're
yeah, they're
light.
not heavy. Yeah,
Right, and I throw them around. I don't know. You've seen how aggressive I am on stage. I
mhm,
take guitars and throw them to the roadie
exactly.
guys, and
As it should be, right?
yep,
They're meant to be beaten up.
right.
So here's another question for you. You mentioned Kiss earlier. No, my dog must be disagreeing with me here. What's your rank in the Kiss Army, would you say exactly? I would say I'm probably like maybe like a colonel in the Kiss Army.
A
My favorite
Colonel.
song is Cold Gin.
Hmm.
I think that I'm a connoisseur of Kiss as well, but what would you say you are?
Well, I've never thought about giving myself a rank, but I think Colonel was pretty much right up there.
Oh yeah.
Five-star general.
You
I
might
don't
even
know.
be general status, man. I mean,
Maybe, yeah. I've seen a lot of Kiss shows. It was my very first concert I ever went to, and the opening band. I guess there were 2 openers. One was a band called Detective, and the other was a band called uh, John Cougar, who is now John Cougar Mellencamp.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That gets
So
going places, right?
right, right. But yeah, I've seen them so many times. My gosh, like I said, I remember my parents and some of my friends' parents going crazy on us. Oh my God, you guys are all,
I would say that that alone, if you had criteria for ranking in the Kiss Army, really, it would be what makes Gene the most money, right? So if you've seen if you've seen them enough times, he's kind of like it's kind of like an evil cult and a cult leader. So you made it to so many levels just by going to that many shows. So I would say you're probably a general in the Kiss Army
maybe
by now,
so.
right?
Could be.
Absolutely. And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. People who don't like Kiss and bag on Kiss, I mean, can you even call yourself a person? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I know. I think I got 12 or 13 Kiss shows under my belt.
That's pretty
Something like
good.
that. I've seen a lot of bands though, a lot of times like that. And luckily I've been able to perform with a lot of bands over a lot of times like that too. So, it's really weird though when you play in a band, you don't get to see bands because you're always
Right.
working. You never
Yeah.
get, so
Who was your favorite band that you guys played alongside that you got to talk to or that you can remember?
well, I always tell people it's kind of a yin and yang story, but we've always we've played with Bret Michaels a bunch of times and Vince Neil a bunch of times and the guys in Slaughter. We played with Skid Row a bunch of times, but the guys in Slaughter, when Vince goes out with his solo deal, the band Slaughter is actually his band.
Oh, okay.
With him singing instead of Mark. Yeah. And so we were Bret Michaels has been always just the coolest dude ever. He's just so good when he's
Everyone
healthy.
says
Sometimes
that, don't they? They say he's just the nicest guy, man.
yeah, he really is, and he does have some health issues. So sometimes he's unable to spend a lot of time with you. But, there's been several times we just tossing the football back and forth backstage. And, Big John is roadie guy or whatever. He's a security guy. He's just going in and out of the bus and bringing us beers and stuff, and super cool like that. Whereas the exact opposite is Vince Neil. Oh my God.
Oh, no.
Oh my God. So we're sitting on the Slaughter bus, which I guess was the Vince bus, and we're hanging out with Slaughter before this show one time, and guys, and Vince calls because he's flying in. He calls and gets one of the guys on the phone. I think it was Dana Strum, and like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're hanging out on the bus. Oh, yeah, who's with you? Those Paisty Jenny guys. Oh, get them off my bus right now. He threw us off the bus and he wasn't even there.
No way.
Yeah. And then one time I seen him argue, there was almost a knockdown drag out backstage. I don't know, a bunch of bands on the schedule, but Loverboy was playing and Vince was on it. And between the two of them, they were having this huge argument. Well, who's gonna headline this? Well, it should have been obvious, but Vince ends up winning this argument. But the whole reason that it became an argument is because he gets out on stage and he does the entire set and the entire show sitting on a chair because he had a broken leg.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask a mean-spirited question about Vince Neil, and only because, and I'm not picking on him. Okay, I'm a big guy too, but Vince. I've always wondered if Vince is an alien slowly eating mankind one person at a time. What say you, Greg? What do you think about it?
Well, I'll say I put on a few pounds in the last few years myself, so I understand. And Vince, though, he's actually looking kind of svelte lately. I think he's thinned it up.
He is, and his voice is improving as he kind of loses weight and everything.
Yeah.
I personally hate seeing him going downhill because I think he's such a talent. It sounds like he's not the best guy, but a lot of guys in rock aren't, but
right.
I do.
Well, you hate to see that with anybody,
Yeah.
It's just, so.
Exactly. Well, what's another weird question? Here's a question. So I usually do paranormal stuff, and I don't know, maybe you think it's a bunch of Hong Kong Phooey. I don't know what you think, but what do you believe? Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever had an experience with a ghost? Tell me more, Greg.
Well, we had I'll say this up front. I'm not really a believer. I'm a skeptic. Put it that way. I'm a skeptic. But I have had a couple, one particular experience. A bunch of us were staying at an Airbnb in Kansas City. And, well, it was pretty scary. We there was a whole bunch of us. So my wife and I were actually sleeping on this big air mattress in the middle of the living room with somebody on the couch over here. And there was a bedroom over here and bedroom upstairs and whatever. And in the middle of the night, she wakes up screaming, it's blood curdling scream like I have never heard out of anybody in my whole lifetime. And she swears somebody was reaching up from underneath the mattress trying to pull her in.
Oh my gosh.
Down underground. And it was just, and then after that, other people in the house, people upstairs, these gals that were there, they're like, oh, there was a old lady in a nightgown looking at us all night, hovering over us here. And then the TV would turn on and off by itself, and the one that we were sleeping next to.
Yeah.
And then the next day, when we were getting ready to leave, we're like, we're the hell out of it. We're gone.
Yeah,
right?
It's over with.
We discovered this book. Sometimes they leave the little house book of little stuff about the house. It's something about, hope you don't mind our live-in guests that are here. They
No
tend
way.
to eat our cookies and do different things and blah 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 blah. And we're like,
Yeah,
what? You're not going to disclose that up front?
man. I'm gonna have to get the my brother lives in Kansas City, and we do look for Airbnbs from time to time. I'm gonna have to see roughly where, if you can remember where it was or whatever. I might try to book
Right.
that place, man.
I'll have to check my email and see if I can
Yeah,
find it, find the
that would be
receipt.
amazing. I would love. I've been doing paranormal investigating, like with real investigators, scientist types. These guys who, they just want you to. They want to crunch the numbers. They have all these theories, and I mean,
Sure.
I will say I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. Like, I am a huge believer. I've been grabbed on the ankle and pulled backwards. I was scratched only a week ago at the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas, on my neck.
Wow.
I just started feeling, I don't know if you're aware of what this place is, but I just started feeling like a burning on my neck. And I kept asking my wife, so she took a picture and it was getting progressively redder. Then about an hour later, I'll be darned if there wasn't a scratch right down my neck. I have no explanation for it. The house is supposedly very haunted. We did get some other evidence.
Wow.
It's pretty wild, man. The earth is a weird place, and the supernatural is even weirder.
It's true.
So,
Well, I certainly
I
do.
am skeptical though. It's good to have some skepticism to everything, because if we just sit there and throw our hands up and say, "Oh yeah, it is what it is," well,
Yeah.
that's not really how life should be. Like a
Right.
mind should really look into anything. Like I'm telling myself, did I scratch myself? Did I do this? Did I? But I mean,
Sure.
I literally, I know for a fact, as I've replayed it over and over again, that I didn't touch my neck. I
Wow.
started feeling a burning, and this house is notorious for that. And it's like I hate
Right.
to
Wow.
dramatize it, because it's like on TV and stuff. We hate that. We hate all the dramatic of, a guy
Sure.
who says he,
Sure.
like Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures. I love the show, but he's possessed every show, right? That just
Right.
doesn't happen. And
Right.
so
Ah.
yeah, exactly. It just doesn't happen in a haunted location. A lot of times you'll
But I
get
don't know if it's an endorsement an agreement that the paranormal exists or not, or if I'm saying that right. But I do believe there's good and evil in the
yes,
world
yes,
in our universe. I believe there are evil spirits. I believe there are angels. I believe in God, and that's just I think right now I think our world is right now at a precipice of the two,
yeah.
and good always wins, so that's fine.
We're
But
in a serious battle right now, and it's
oh yeah,
obvious to me, and nobody's going to tell me. I believe the same things you do, and I actually think that studying the paranormal, as weird as people would say, I think it furthers my belief in Christianity and God.
hmm
And there,
hmm.
if ever there was a doubt that there's a good force and an evil force, I'm telling you with all certainty, the more I see and the more I investigate, it becomes
Yeah,
clearer to me that all these, everything is as it's said. I mean, it's all true. There's good out
yeah,
there, there's evil, and there's so much stuff that we probably shouldn't be messing with, because things are getting pretty wild.
they really are.
They are.
Yeah,
And then
that's
there's idiots like me diving into these places where where I shouldn't be, but I'm not doing it in a bad way. But you do meet evil, you do meet the strange head on when you go after it. So, I'm
yeah,
fully
that's for
aware of
sure.
that. And my parents tell me all the time, if you invite it into your life, you're probably going to see it. So
Yeah, makes sense.
that's a lesson for anybody. Well, Greg, this has been an unbelievable pleasure for me. I wish we had more time. I'd love to interview you guys some other time, but man, I hope you had a good time on the show.
That's great.
It's been an amazing interview for me, man. I give you a standing O right now, but it's better if I sit, because then you won't see me on here. So thanks, man.
Oh, good. No problem. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me. I should throw it out there. We got we're not touring or anything, but we're doing a little run up and down the I-80 corridor here coming up.
Yes, please,
So,
please. I'm such an idiot. Please plug. I do want you to plug everything you'd like to plug,
oh no,
especially for
we only
people.
got honestly right now only 3 shows on the books, and but we're gonna come back out and start doing some stuff. I have no desire to tour like I used to.
Yeah.
Just don't have that desire anymore at all. But we got a handful of shows. We're gonna be at Dream on the Green in Omaha
Mhm.
on September 8th. And then there's a show in York called Zephyrfest on the 23rd of September.
Okay.
For a good cause. That's going to be a great bunch of bands on that. And then October 14th, we're at the Other Side in Kearney.
Okay.
And so three great Paisty shows. Going to have a lot of fun. So, I know we haven't been out playing a lot in a while. So here's your chance. Come get pasted with us again. And
that's right.
And
You've got Gregg Jenny at Cappy's coming up, right?
Yeah, Gregg Jenny. We're there on the 18th, I want to say. Let me just look here. I'll just check.
I think I saw a flyer or something.
Yep. It's, August 18th. You can get wrecked, Jenny.
Get wrecked
at Cappy's. So yeah.
When I saw that name, I'm going to be honest with you. When I was at Cappy's eating lunch with my parents, I saw that name and I didn't know you were behind it. And I got disgusted for a second because I was like, oh, how original is that? If it's like they're stealing from Paisty Jenny. And then it's like, oh, wait, it's Gregg Lee. Gregg Lee playing with Gregg Jenny. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then
and also, I mean, something big. You guys have your new single, right? Hands Up is coming out when again?
Yes, sir. August 20th. Let me make sure I got it right. Yeah, August 23.
August 23.
August 23 is our release date. So a few weeks away. So if anybody out there is on Spotify, that's where we're going to be pushing it hard. And we're just not really pushing to radio anymore. It's radio these days is as bad as digital streaming pays. Radio doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had my songs on radio and different things, and it hasn't done me that well. So I just push it in other ways.
Yeah. So anyway, be on the lookout for Hands Up.
Yes, it's a great song, everybody. Thank you once again, Gregg, and everybody. If you're in the Lincoln area, get wrecked when you can, and check out Paisty Jenny where you can also. So thank you, Gregg.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take care, man.
All right. See ya.